Back at his ship, Queequeg surveyed his lovely crop of tomatoes. At this rate, he would fill up his well-protected super-cool storage in no time at all, and he would have to seek new storage options. A delicious problem to have, it seemed to Quee. He smacked his lips, or rather, he smacked where his lips would have been if he didn't have a beak instead. Quee was glad that he had a beak, even if the smacking sound made by the beak was not quite as pithy and satisfying as lip smacking, because the beak was so much more versatile than a pair of lips. Sure, lips were used for articulating words, eating, and smooching, but the beak could be used to eat, articulate, groom, and kill prey, fight, court females, and feed babies. Smooching was still a tad problematic, especially concerning to Quee, having just met Angelina, but considering the wide breadth of other uses that the versatile accoutrement had, Quee thought it a fair trade-off. Quee beamed down to the surface of the planet and fought a few aggressive monsters who, not possessing beaks, were clearly jealous of Quee's genetic superiority. Quee paid a quick visit to the avian township and spent all of his pocket pixels on fresh tomatoes. Quee had it in mind that he would raid the robot base again because he seemed to always be hard up, particularly because the shopkeeper kept raising the price of tomatoes just as Quee was walking up to his shop. Suspicious. Quee broke into the robot base, but was so unnerved by a close encounter with a giant tank of what appeared to be lava that he ran away squealing, and had to go on a calming and relaxing walk while eating a tomato capable of soothing frayed nerves. He was still calming himself down when he stumbled on an avian house. Inside was a beautiful chocolate-colored avian named Snixie, and another cactus. Quee tried not to comment on how formulaic the interior decorators on the planet were, not wanting to insult Snixie. Quee attempted to respond to her cheerful greeting, but no words came out, and he ended up dropping a few tomatoes and exiting the house with a friendly look that he hoped gave her the impression that he was the handsome sort, generous to a fault, and perhaps boyfriend material. As he walked away, she spoke to him, using phraseology that indicated that she had indeed seen Queequeg as the potential boyfriend that he was. Queequeg felt deeply conflicted, his befeathered head filled with thoughts of Snixie and Angelina. He liked them both very much, but they were both very stylishly dressed avians, and Quee felt that he would have to do better than the threadbare loincloth smelling faintly of manure that he'd worn as long as he could remember, and had washed twice. He started digging to clear his head. He eventually dug a deep hole and unearthed an axe that made fire when swung. This was pretty cool, and it reminded him of his earlier embarrassing encounter with lava. He grasped the axe with a newfound courage that comes when one upgrades his weaponry, and charged the robot base like a fool who has just discovered an axe that creates fire when swung. Quee had a rich inner life, and his head was filled with visions of smoldering cross-sections of the robot guards, but no sooner had he come to the robot base when his outer life took precedent, and he resorted to his old technique of just piling dirt on their heads. He didn't see many spare pixels lying about, since he'd already plundered the base a time before, but he did find something that, in his mind, was incalculably more valuable. A pair of scientist glasses. Quee put them on and instantly felt 200% smarter, 130% more cooler, and, Queequeg hardly dared to hope, 23% more eligible for the attentions of an attractive female. Now that Quee was a scientist, he had to use percentages like that. The scientists are precise. But which attractive female? This was the thought that troubled Quee, like a belly full of undigested hairpeas. Finding no more pixels, Quee decided to steal the robot's shiny steel platforms, which would certainly help him in the digging operations. Quee went back to the mine and dug deep into the earth until he unearthed the giant cavern of gravel. The gravel proved to be quite unpredictable, and soon, Quee wasn't quite sure how it happened, he found himself up to his neck in gravel. Quee sat there for a moment. He had never before realized how soothing getting buried in cool gravel could be. He sat neck deep in the gravel for well over 2 hours, until he had an epiphany. He needed to leave the planet. With the female avians hounding him for their attention, and gravel collapsing every step he took, he was fed up and overwhelmed. He had a good stock of tomatoes on the dung boat, too, and enough coal to power her. He would set off immediately to seek out new places to hang out. Perhaps he would be able to sort through some of the voices in his head. He beamed back to the dung boat, too, clicked the I'm Feeling Lucky button on the navigation instrument panel, and burst off through space, away from the robots, away from the creepy hooded men who were under the impression that Quee was a heathen who desperately needed his face carved off, and off into the vastness of space, in hopes of finding new life and strange new tomatoes, and perhaps a world without the bewitching female avians to befuddle his thinking. Of course, a transformation was looming in Quee's future that would change Quee's life, perhaps as much or more than tomatoes did. But we get ahead of ourselves.